Maya Johnson's tiny hands wouldn't stop shaking. She was 7 years old, standing alone in front of 5 leather-clad bikers at 5:52 in the morning, and she said the words that would change everything. "There's a bad man following me to school. The police won't help because I'm black and he's not. Will you believe me? Please." The biggest man slowly set down his coffee. His name was Bear. He'd lost a daughter 30 years ago. He looked at this terrified child and made a decision that would shake an entire town to its foundation. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and ring that bell. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far Maya's story travels. Maya Johnson learned something terrible in the 3 weeks before she walked into Mama Lou's soul kitchen. She learned that being 7 years old and black meant your voice didn't matter. Not to teachers, not to principals, not to police officers, not to anyone with the power to help. The white pickup truck first appeared on a Tuesday morning in September. Maya was walking the 6 blocks from her apartment to Jefferson Elementary, the same route she'd walked since kindergarten. Her mama worked the night shift at Riverside General Hospital, so Maya walked alone. Lots of kids in her neighborhood walked alone. That's just how it was. The truck slowed down beside her. Maya kept walking eyes forward just like her mama taught her. The window rolled down. "Hey there, pretty girl." Maya's stomach clenched. She walked faster. "You going to school all by yourself? That's a long walk for a little thing like you." She didn't answer, didn't look, just walked. The truck crawled alongside her for 2 more blocks before finally pulling away. Maya ran the rest of the way to school. By the time she reached the front doors, she was crying so hard she couldn't catch her breath. Mrs. Crawford was Maya's 2nd-grade teacher. She'd been teaching at Jefferson Elementary for 19 years, and she had opinions about certain kinds of students. Maya had heard her say things to other teachers when she thought no one was listening. Things about those children, and no fathers at home, and what do you expect? Maya stood at Mrs. Crawford's desk, still shaking, trying to explain what happened. "A man in a truck talked to me. He followed me. He scared me." Mrs. Crawford barely looked up from her grating. "Maya, sweetie, I'm sure it was nothing. Lots of people drive trucks. Maybe he was just being friendly." "He wasn't friendly. He was scary. He asked if I walk alone." "Well, do you?" "Yes, ma'am, but..." "Then maybe you should find someone to walk with. Problem solved." Mrs. Crawford smiled that smile adults use when they want children to stop talking. "Now go sit down. We're starting math in 5 minutes." Maya sat down. She didn't mention the truck again that day, but the truck came back. The second time was Thursday. Same route, same slow crawl beside her, same rolled down window. "I remember you," the driver said. He was younger than Maya expected, maybe her mama's age, or a little younger. White guy, brown hair, cold blue eyes that made Maya think of the dead fish at the grocery store. "You walked by yourself again. Your mama doesn't worry about you." Maya ran. She heard him laughing as the truck finally sped away. That afternoon, she told the school counselor, Mr. Bennett. He was a round man with a beard who always smelled like peppermint. "Maya, have you been watching scary movies?" "No, sir." "Sometimes children see things on TV and get confused about what's real." "It was real. He followed me twice." Mr. Bennett leaned back in his chair. "Honey, I think you might be looking for attention. It's not uncommon in children from..." He stopped himself. "In children whose fathers aren't present. Do you miss your daddy?" Maya's father had left when she was 2. She didn't remember him at all. "This isn't about my daddy. There's a man in a truck." "I'll make a note of it." Mr. Bennett was already looking at his computer. "You can go back to class now." Maya went back to class. Nobody made any notes. The 3rd time was different. The truck was waiting for her, parked right at the corner of Oak and 3rd Engine idling. Maya saw it from a block away and froze. Her heart pounded so loud she could hear it in her ears. She could turn around, go back home. But Mama had already left for her day shift, and the apartment would be locked. She could be late for school, but then Mrs. Crawford would call Mama, and Mama would worry, and Mama already worried too much. Maya decided to cross the street, walk on the other side, stay far away from the truck. She stepped off the curb. The truck's engine revved. It pulled forward, made a U-turn, and rolled up beside her on the other side. The window was already down. "You can't get away from me that easy, pretty girl." The driver was smiling. That smile made Maya's skin crawl. "What's your name?" Maya didn't answer. "I asked you a question. Didn't your mama teach you manners? Leave me alone." "Oh, she talks." His smile got wider. "I like your voice. Bet you sing real pretty, too. You sing in church. Little black girls always sing in church." Maya ran. She ran so fast her backpack slammed against her spine with every step. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs ached, and she couldn't see straight through the tears. The truck didn't follow, but she could hear him laughing. That laugh echoed in her nightmares for weeks. That night, Maya finally told her mother everything. Keisha Johnson was 31 years old, a registered nurse who worked 60 hours a week to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. She'd raised Maya alone since Marcus Johnson walked out when Maya was in diapers, taking the car, the savings account, and any illusions Keisha had about depending on anyone but herself. Keisha sat at the kitchen table, Maya in her lap, listening to every word. "Baby, tell me again what he looked like." "White man, brown hair, blue eyes like dead fish. His truck is white with a dent in the front." "Did you see the license plate?" Maya nodded. "I tried to remember it, like you told me, for emergencies." "What was it?" Maya closed her eyes, concentrating. "GXL 4471. Keisha grabbed a pen and wrote it down. Her hand was shaking. "Baby girl, you did so good. You did exactly right. Mama's going to fix this, okay? I'm going to fix this. Promise. I promise." Keisha meant it with every fiber of her being. She had no idea that promise would be almost impossible to keep. The Riverside Police Department was a squat brick building on Main Street that always smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Keisha walked in the next morning with her jaw set and fire in her eyes, Maya's hand gripped tight in hers. Officer Danny Weber sat behind the front desk. He was in his 40s, white, with a gut that strained against his uniform and the permanent expression of a man who'd rather be anywhere else. He didn't look up when Keisha approached. "Help you. I need to file a report. My daughter is being stalked." That made him look up. His eyes flicked from Keisha to Maya and back. Something shifted in his expression, something that made Keisha's stomach turn. Stalked. That's a strong word. It's the right word. A man in a white pickup has been following her to school for 2 weeks. He talks to her. He asked her name. He asked if she walks alone. Kids walk to school. People drive by. Sometimes they say hello. This wasn't hello. This was predatory behavior. My daughter is 7 years old. Officer Weber leaned back in his chair. "Ma'am, I'm sure you're concerned. Mothers always are. But we can't investigate every time someone waves at a kid." He didn't wave. He followed her, multiple times. He waited for her at specific corners. "Do you have video?" "No." "Any witnesses?" "My daughter is the witness." Weber glanced at Maya. "Honey, are you sure this man was following you? Maybe he just lives in the neighborhood." Maya straightened her spine. She looked Officer Weber directly in the eyes. "He followed me on Tuesday, then Thursday, then Friday. He asked if I walk alone. He asked my name. He said I couldn't get away from him. He has a white truck with a dent in the front. The license plate is GXL 4471. I memorized it." For just a moment, something flickered in Weber's expression. Something like surprise. Then it was gone. "That's very detailed, young lady." "My mama taught me to pay attention." Keisha pulled out of the napkin with the plate number written on it. "Run this, please. Just run the plate and tell me who this man is." Weber looked at the napkin for a long moment. Then he typed something into his computer. His face changed. Keisha saw it. A flash of recognition, a tightening around his jaw. He knew that plate number. He knew whose truck it was. "Well," Keisha demanded. Weber closed the computer screen. "Ma'am, I can't help you." "What do you mean you can't help me?" "I mean there's nothing to investigate. No crime has been committed. If something happens, Keisha's voice rose. You want me to wait until my daughter is kidnapped, assaulted dead in a ditch somewhere? Then you'll investigate. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to calm down. Don't you dare tell me to calm down. Tell me whose truck that is. I can't release that information. You know, don't you? You looked it up and you know who it is and you're not going to tell me. Weber stood up. The conversation was over. Have a good day, ma'am. Lock your doors. Keep your daughter close. That's it. That's all you're going to do. That's all I can do. Keisha grabbed Maya's hand and stormed out of the police station. Behind them, Officer Weber picked up his phone and made a call. Hey, it's Danny. We got a problem. Some black woman came in about her kid. Says Derek's been following her. He paused, listening. Yeah, I shut it down, but she's got the plate number. The kid memorized it. Another pause. I know. I'll handle it. Just wanted you to know. He hung up and went back to scrolling his phone. Maya Johnson had just become inconvenient to very powerful people. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound. Cars passing outside, footsteps in the apartment above, the creak of the building settling. Every sound could be him. Every shadow could be that white truck. At 2 a.m., she crept to the window and peeked through the blinds. The street was empty, but Maya knew he was out there somewhere, waiting, watching, patient, and nobody was going to stop him. The next 2 weeks were the worst of Maya's life. The truck came every day now. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon when school let out, always there, always watching. The driver never got out, but he didn't need to. His presence was enough. Maya stopped eating breakfast. Her stomach was too knotted with fear. She stopped raising her hand in class because she couldn't concentrate on anything except getting home safely. She stopped playing at recess because she spent the whole time watching the street looking for white trucks. Keisha called everyone. She called the school board. She called the mayor's office. She called local news stations. She called lawyers. Everyone had the same response. Without proof of a crime, there was nothing they could do. One lawyer, a white woman in a fancy office downtown, was at least honest. Mrs. Johnson, I ran that plate number myself. That truck belongs to Derek Whitfield. Keisha's blood went cold. Whitfield, as in Harrison Whitfield. His son, Derek, is 23 years old. He's been in trouble before, but the cases were sealed. His father owns half this town. He's funded the police chief's campaigns, the mayor's campaigns, half the school board. So my daughter is being stalked by a rich white man's son, and nobody will help because he's got money. The lawyer looked genuinely sorry. I'm telling you how it is. You fight this publicly, they'll destroy you. They'll dig into your life, your finances, your past. They'll call you an angry black woman making false accusations. You'll lose your job, your apartment, maybe even your daughter. So what am I supposed to do? Wait for him to hurt her? I'm saying be careful, document everything, build a case so ironclad they can't ignore it, and pray he gets bored and moves on. Keisha left that office and sat in her car and cried until she couldn't breathe. When she got home, she heard Maya crying through her bedroom wall. That was the moment Keisha Johnson realized she was completely, utterly alone. The system wouldn't save them. The law wouldn't protect them. Money and power had already decided that her daughter didn't matter. Maya heard everything. The thin walls of their apartment hid nothing. She heard her mother on the phone begging for help. She heard her mother crying after every dead end. She heard her mother praying late at night, desperate prayers that sounded more like sobbing. Maya was 7 years old, and she understood something that most children never have to learn: adults couldn't always protect you. Sometimes adults failed. Sometimes adults chose not to care. But Maya also remembered something else. 2 weeks before the truck started following her, she'd been walking home from the library with her mama. They passed Mama Lou's Soul Kitchen, and Maya saw them 5 black men in leather vests sitting at a table by the window, motorcycles parked outside chrome gleaming in the sun. Bikers, Mama had said, pulling Maya a little closer. Best to steer clear of folks like that. But then something happened that Maya never forgot. Old Miss Ernestine came out of the pharmacy next door, arms full of grocery bags. She was 80 if she was a day bent and frail. One of the bags slipped. Cans rolled everywhere. oranges scattered across the sidewalk. Those bikers were out of their seats before the oranges stopped rolling. The biggest one, a man with gray locks and a beard, knelt down and started picking up cans like they were made of glass. Another helped Miss Ernestine steady herself. A third gathered the oranges. They loaded everything into her arms, made sure she was okay, walked her to her car. Maya watched the whole thing. "Mama, I thought bikers were bad." Keisha had stared at the scene with a complicated expression. "I don't know, baby. Maybe I was wrong." Now lying in her bed, too afraid to sleep, Maya thought about those bikers. They'd helped Miss Ernestine when they didn't have to. They'd believed an old woman needed help and just helped. Maybe they'd believe a little girl, too. Maya made her decision at 3 a.m. She couldn't keep living like this, couldn't keep being scared every second of every day, couldn't keep watching her mama fall apart trying to protect her. She had to do something crazy, something brave, something that might be the worst idea she'd ever had or the best. She was going to ask the bikers for help. Maya set her alarm for 5:30 a.m. She crept out of bed, careful not to wake her mother, pulled on her purple jacket, her favorite, the one her mama said matched her personality, put on her backpack, wrote a note in her careful second-grade handwriting, "Gone to get help. Love you, Mommy." She left it on the kitchen table. Then Maya Johnson, 7 years old, terrified but determined, walked out of her apartment alone in the dark. The walk to Mama Lou's took 22 minutes. Maya had timed it once on a Sunday morning when she couldn't sleep. She knew the route by heart. Left on Oak, right on 3rd, straight down Main Street. The streets were empty at this hour. No cars, no people. Just Maya and her pounding heart and the echo of her footsteps on the concrete. Every shadow made her flinch. Every distant sound made her freeze. But she kept walking, because being scared didn't mean you had to stop moving. Mama Lou's Soul Kitchen glowed like a lighthouse in the pre-dawn darkness. Maya could see them through the window. Not all the bikers from before, but enough. The big man with gray locks was there reading a newspaper. A few others sat around him drinking coffee, talking in low voices. Maya stood at the door, her hand on the handle. Her whole body was shaking. What was she doing? These were strangers, grown men she didn't know. Her mama had warned her about talking to strangers her whole life. But Mama's warnings hadn't stopped the man in the white truck. Mama's warnings hadn't made anyone believe her. Mama's warnings hadn't kept her safe. Maybe it was time to stop waiting for the people who were supposed to protect her and find people who actually would. Maya pushed open the door. The bell chimed. 5 heads turned. Maya stood there small and terrified, her purple backpack hanging off one shoulder, her voice shaking but clear. "My name is Maya Johnson. I'm 7 years old. There's a bad man following me to school in a white truck. I told the police, but they won't help because I'm black and he's not. I told my teachers, but they don't believe me. I told everyone and nobody will help." She took a breath. "I saw you help Miss Ernestine with her groceries. You helped her when nobody asked you to. So I'm asking, please, will you help me? Will you believe me?" The diner went absolutely silent. The big man with gray locks slowly folded his newspaper. He had eyes that had seen too much, and hands that had buried too many people he loved. His name was Marcus Thompson, but everyone called him Bear. 30 years ago he'd had a daughter. She was 8 years old when a man took her. They found her body 3 days later in a drainage ditch outside of town. The man was someone important, a city councilman's nephew. The case was closed without an arrest. Insufficient evidence, they said, just like they always said when powerful people were involved. Bear had spent every day since that moment trying to find a reason to keep breathing. He'd found it in his brothers, the Brotherhood Riders. He'd found it in helping people nobody else would help. He'd found it in small acts of kindness that couldn't bring his daughter back, but maybe somehow kept her memory alive. Now a little girl stood in front of him, asking to be believed, the same age his daughter would have been when she first started walking to school alone. Bear stood up from the table. He was massive, at least 6'3", built like a tank, arms covered in tattoos that told stories of war and loss and survival. He walked slowly toward Maya, careful not to scare her. Then he knelt down right there on the floor of Mama Lou's Soul Kitchen so he could look her in the eyes. "Hey there, little one. I'm Bear. And I need you to know something important." His voice was gentle, barely above a whisper. "I believe you." Maya's whole face crumpled. "You do?" "Every word. Now sit down and tell me everything. Every detail. Every time this man followed you, every word he said, every corner where he waited. Can you do that?" Maya nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, sir." "Good girl." Bear stood and called over his shoulder, "Dante, get this child some pancakes, and somebody call her mama, she's probably worried sick." He turned back to Maya. "You're safe now, understand? Whatever happens next, you're not alone anymore. The Brotherhood takes care of its own." "But I'm not." "You walked through that door and asked for help. That makes you family." Maya sat down in the booth next to Bear. His brothers gathered around, not crowding, just present, listening, ready. And for the first time in 3 weeks, Maya Johnson felt something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Safe. Keisha Johnson woke up at 6:47 a.m. alone. She knew something was wrong before she even opened her eyes. The apartment was too quiet. Maya always made noise in the morning, the creak of her bedroom door footsteps padding to the bathroom, the clink of a cereal bowl. Nothing. Keisha was out of bed and down the hall in 3 seconds flat. Maya's room was empty. Her bed was unmade. Her purple jacket was gone. Her backpack was gone. Keisha's heart stopped. "Maya, Maya." She searched every room, the bathroom, the closets, under the beds, behind the couch, calling her daughter's name, her voice getting more desperate with every empty space. Then she saw the note on the kitchen table. "Gone to get help. Love you, Mommy." Keisha's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, the note clutched in her fist, and for one terrible moment she thought this was it. This was the thing she'd been afraid of. The white truck had come in the night and taken her baby, and now Maya was gone, gone. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Keisha answered with shaking hands. "Mrs. Johnson." A man's voice, deep, calm. "My name is Marcus Thompson. Your daughter is safe. She's here at Mama Lou's Soul Kitchen on Main Street." Keisha couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Ma'am, you there?" She's safe." "Yes, ma'am. She walked in about 20 minutes ago, told us everything about the man who's been following her. We believe her, and we're going to help." Keisha started crying, deep, racking sobs that came from somewhere she didn't know existed. "Please don't let anything happen to her, please." "Nothing's going to happen to her. Not while we're here. But you should come. We need to talk about what happens next." I'm coming right now." She hung up and grabbed her keys. 8 minutes later, she burst through the doors of Mama Lou's Soul Kitchen, still in her scrubs from yesterday, wild-eyed and terrified. Maya saw her and ran. "Mommy!" Keisha caught her daughter and held her so tight she could feel Maya's heartbeat against her own. "Baby, you scared me. You scared me so bad." "I'm sorry, Mommy, but I had to do something. Nobody was helping us." Keisha looked up and saw them, the bikers. 5 black men in leather vests watching her with expressions that held no judgment, only understanding. The big one stepped forward. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm Bear. Your daughter is one of the bravest people I've ever met." He paused. "But I expect you already knew that." Keisha wiped her eyes. "She gets it from her grandmother." Bear smiled. It transformed his whole face, made him look almost gentle, despite his size. "Ma'am, if you'll sit down, we need to talk. Your daughter's been telling us about the man in the white truck. We ran his plates." Keisha's jaw tightened. "Let me guess. Derek Whitfield." Bear's eyebrows rose. "You already know." "I know, and I know nobody in this town will touch him because his daddy owns half of Riverside. That's about to change." Bear sat down across from her. His brothers arranged themselves around the table, not threatening, but present. "See, my club has been dealing with men like Derek Whitfield for a long time. Men who think money makes them untouchable. Men who hurt children and get away with it because of who their family is." "No offense, Mr. Thompson, but what can a motorcycle club do that police and lawyers can't?" Bear leaned forward. "Everything they won't. We can show up. We can be visible. We can make sure the whole world is watching, so when Derek Whitfield or anyone in his family tries something, there are 500 witnesses with cameras." 500? "I made some calls. By tomorrow morning, you'll understand what I mean." Keisha looked at Maya, who was eating pancakes like she hadn't eaten in days, probably because she hadn't. Not really. "Why?" Keisha asked. "Why would you do this for us? You don't know us." Bear was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. 30 years ago, I had a daughter. She was 8 years old. A man took her, a man whose family had money and connections. They found her body in a drainage ditch 3 days later. Case was closed without an arrest. Keisha's hand flew to her mouth. I couldn't save my little girl. I couldn't save any of the other children who came after her, but I can save yours. Bear's eyes were wet, but his voice was steady. That's why. Because your daughter walked into this diner and asked for help, and I will be damned if I turn away another child when it matters. Keisha reached across the table and took his hand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Things are going to get worse before they get better. The Whitfield family won't give up easy. But I promise you, I promise on my daughter's grave, Maya will be safe, whatever it takes. Outside Mama Lou's Soul Kitchen, the sun was rising. And somewhere across town, Derek Whitfield was waking up to the worst news of his life. His phone buzzed with a text from his father. Get home, now. We have a problem. The little black girl had finally found someone who believed her. The Whitfields just didn't know it yet. Bear's phone hadn't stopped ringing for 3 hours. That's Atlanta, Dante said, checking the screen. Iron Guardians chapter. They want to know how many riders we need. Tell them 20. No, tell them 30. We need bodies. Keisha sat in the corner booth with Maya, watching these men transform Mama Lou's Soul Kitchen into something that looked like a military command center. Phones rang. Orders were given. Names were written down on napkins, on paper bags, on the backs of receipts. Bear? A younger biker named Jamal called out. Birmingham just confirmed. 45 riders. They'll be here by midnight. Charlotte's sending 60, another voice added. Memphis is pulling together what they can. Maya tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, what's happening? Keisha didn't know how to answer. She'd walked into this diner expecting to drag her daughter home and give her a lecture about leaving the house without permission. Instead, she was watching an army assemble. Bear walked over and knelt in front of Maya. Little one, I need you to understand something. Tomorrow morning you're going to school, but you're not walking alone. You're not riding the bus. You're going with us. How many of you? Bear smiled. As many as it takes. Keisha's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and her face went pale. What is it? Bear asked immediately. Unknown number, text message. She read it aloud, her voice shaking. Keep your mouth shut and your daughter safe. Last warning. The diner went silent. Bear took the phone from her hand, read the message, and his jaw tightened so hard Keisha could hear his teeth grinding. They're scared, he said quietly. Good. Scared people make mistakes. They threatened my daughter. They threatened her before you had backup. Now you do. Bear handed the phone back. Don't delete that. Screenshot it. Send it to everyone, your sister, your mama, your friends. Make sure people know. That's your insurance. Insurance against what? Bear looked at her with eyes that had seen too much of how the world really worked. Insurance against anything happening to you or Maya and the police, calling it an accident. Keisha felt the blood drain from her face. She hadn't thought of that. Hadn't let herself think that far ahead. Jesus. I'm not trying to scare you, Mrs. Johnson. I'm trying to keep you alive. The Whitfield family has money and power and no conscience. They've made problems disappear before. We need to make sure you're not a problem that can disappear. Maya had been listening to every word. Mommy, are we going to disappear? Keisha pulled her daughter close. No, baby. Nobody's disappearing. Bear won't let that happen. Bear put his massive hand on Maya's small shoulder. That's right, little one. You're brotherhood now, and brotherhood doesn't disappear. The door to Mama Lou's swung open. A woman in her 60s walked in short round, with silver hair and an apron that said, I season everything with love and a little sass. Marcus Thompson, what in the Lord's name is going on in my restaurant? Hey, Mama Lou. Bear stood and kissed her cheek. We got a situation. I can see that. Got bikes filling up my parking lot. Got men I haven't seen since '09 walking through my door. Her eyes landed on Maya. And who is this precious child? This is Maya. She's why we're here. Mama Lou walked over to the booth and sat down across from Keisha. She took one look at Maya's face, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she flinched at sudden movements, and her expression hardened. Someone's been hurting this baby. Someone's been trying, Keisha said. We're making sure they don't succeed. Mama Lou reached across the table and took Maya's hands in hers. Child, you eat yet? Yes, ma'am. The man with the beard gave me pancakes. That's Dante. He can't cook worth a damn, but he knows how to order. Mama Lou patted Maya's hands. You stay right here. I'm going to make you something proper. And don't you worry about nothing. These men look scary, but they're all just big teddy bears. Even Bear, Mama Lou laughed. Especially Bear. He just hides it better. She headed for the kitchen, and Bear turned back to his phone. 3 more chapters had confirmed. The numbers kept climbing. By noon, they had 200 riders committed. By sundown, they had 400. By midnight, motorcycles filled every parking space, every side street, every empty lot within a mile of Mama Lou's soul kitchen. And across town, Harrison Whitfield was realizing he had a war on his hands. The Whitfield estate sat on 12 acres just outside Riverside. It was the kind of house that made a statement marble column circular driveway fountain in the front yard. Old money pretending it wasn't old money. Harrison Whitfield stood in his study phone pressed to his ear, listening to Chief Walter Gibson explain how everything had gone sideways. How many? Harrison demanded. 400, maybe more. They're still coming in. Every motorcycle club from here to Tennessee. For one little girl, that's ridiculous. It's all over social media, Harrison. Someone recorded the bikers rolling into town. The video's got 500,000 views already. #ProtectMaya is trending. Harrison slammed his hand on the desk. This is insane. My son hasn't done anything wrong. Your son has 2 sealed complaints from the last 3 years, both involving minors, both involving black girls. Those were misunderstandings. They were payoffs, and I helped you bury them. Chief Gibson's voice was tight. But this is different. These people aren't local. They're not scared of you, and they've got cameras everywhere. If we try to shut this down, we'll be the ones on the evening news. So what are you suggesting? We just let them parade through town like they own the place. I'm suggesting we wait. Let them make their little show tomorrow. Once the cameras are gone, we can deal with this quietly. And my son? Keep Derek out of sight. Send him to your place in Florida until this blows over. Harrison gripped the phone so hard his knuckles went white. I've spent 30 years building this family's reputation. I will not let some thugs on motorcycles destroy it. Then be smart. Don't give them ammunition. Harrison hung up and stared at the wall. 3 generations of Whitfields had run this town. His grandfather had built the first shopping center. His father had funded the police department. Harrison himself had put the current mayor in office. And now a 7-year-old girl was threatening to tear it all down. He pulled out his phone and dialed his son's number. Derek, where are you? Home. Why? Stay there. Don't leave the house. Don't go near that Johnson girl or her mother. Dad, I didn't do anything. I don't care what you did or didn't do. I care about protecting this family. You will stay home, you will keep your mouth shut, and you will let me handle this. Understand? Yes, sir. Harrison hung up. He'd protected his son from consequences his entire life. He wasn't about to stop now. But even as he poured himself a drink, Harrison Whitfield couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Something he couldn't control. Something that had been building for years and was finally about to break. Maya couldn't sleep. She lay on a cot in the back room of Mama Lou's kitchen, listening to the rumble of motorcycles outside. Every few minutes, another one would arrive, the engine growling like a protective beast. Bear had insisted they stay at the restaurant. Can't protect you if you're across town, he'd said. Tonight, you're safer here than anywhere. Keisha lay on the cot next to Maya, but she wasn't sleeping either. Mommy? Yeah, baby? Are we doing the right thing? Keisha rolled over to face her daughter. What do you mean? I mean, all these people came because of me. What if something bad happens? What if someone gets hurt? Keisha pulled Maya close. Listen to me. Those people out there, they came because they wanted to. Nobody forced them. They heard about a little girl who needed help, and they showed up. But why? Because that's what good people do. They see something wrong and they try to make it right. Maya was quiet for a moment. I thought the police were supposed to be the good people. Keisha's heart broke a little. Sometimes the people who are supposed to help you don't. Sometimes the heroes are the ones you least expect. Like bikers. Like bikers. The door cracked open. Bear's face appeared in the darkness. Sorry to interrupt. Just checking on you. We're okay, Keisha said. Just talking. You should try to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Bear. Maya's small voice cut through the darkness. Yeah, little one. Are you scared? Bear stepped into the room and sat on the edge of Maya's cot. His massive frame seemed almost gentle in the dim light. You know what, Maya, I used to be scared all the time. Scared of losing people. Scared of not being able to protect the ones I love. But I learned something. What? Being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care about something enough to be afraid of losing it. The brave part isn't not being scared. The brave part is doing the right thing anyway. Is that what I did when I came to the restaurant? That's exactly what you did. You were scared out of your mind, but you walked through that door anyway. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Maya reached out and grabbed Bear's hand. His fingers were rough, covered in calluses and scars, but his grip was gentle. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for trusting me. Bear squeezed her hand. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we show Riverside what happens when you mess with the wrong family. The sun rose over Mama Lou's soul kitchen at 6:47 a.m. Maya woke to the smell of bacon and the sound of engines. So many engines. She sat up, rubbed her eyes, and looked out the window. Her heart stopped. Motorcycles stretched as far as she could see. Rows and rows of them chrome, gleaming in the morning light. Hundreds of riders in leather vests, standing in clusters, talking, drinking coffee, waiting. Keisha stood behind her, equally stunned. Oh my God! The door opened, and Bear walked in. He was grinning. Good morning, Johnson family. Ready for the first day of the rest of your life. Bear, how many, Psalm 512, and more still coming. Keisha's legs went weak. 500. Word spread. When people heard about Maya, they wanted to help. Turns out there's a lot of folks out there who are tired of watching powerful people hurt children. Maya pressed her face to the window. They all came for me. Every single one. Mama Lou appeared with plates piled high with food. Eat up. You can't face an army on an empty stomach. They ate. Maya managed half a plate of eggs and 2 strips of bacon before her stomach started churning with nerves. Keisha barely touched hers. At 7:30, Bear came back in. It's time. Outside, the noise was overwhelming. Engines revving, people calling to each other, the clank of metal and the creak of leather. Maya had never seen so many people in one place. Bear led them through the crowd to his motorcycle. It was massive, black and chrome with a sidecar attached. Maya had never seen a sidecar before. Your chariot awaits, Princess. Someone handed Maya a tiny leather vest. It was perfect, just her size, with a roaring lion patch on the back and gold letters that said, Protected by the Brotherhood. Put it on, Bear said. Maya shrugged into the vest. It fit like it had been made for her. Now you're official. Bear helped her into the sidecar while Keisha climbed onto the back of Dante's bike. Helmets were distributed. Final checks were made. Then Bear raised his hand. The crowd went silent. Today, Bear's voice carried across the sea of riders. We escort Maya Johnson to school. We do it peacefully. We do it legally. We do it with the whole world watching. And we send a message to everyone in Riverside and beyond. Children deserve to be protected. Children deserve to be believed. And when the system fails them, we will not. He climbed onto his bike and started the engine. 512 motorcycles roared to life at once. The sound was apocalyptic. It shook windows, it rattled doors, it rolled through the streets of Riverside like thunder from a wrathful god. Maya sat in the sidecar, her heart pounding, her eyes wide. She'd never felt anything like this. The vibration of the engine beneath her, the roar of hundreds of machines around her, the faces of strangers who'd come from hundreds of miles away just to protect her. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't silent. She was seen. The convoy began to move. Officer Danny Weber stood at the intersection of Main and 4th, watching 500 motorcycles roll toward Jefferson Elementary School. His radio crackled. "Danny, what's your status?" "I'm watching. The end of my career is what I'm watching." "Chief wants to know if you're going to stop them." Danny looked at the river of chrome and leather, at the cameras, at the news vans that had appeared out of nowhere, at the helicopter circling overhead. "With what I've got, 4 officers and a parking ticket quota. These people have an army. So you're just going to let them through. I'm going to stand here and pretend I'm managing traffic. That's what I'm going to do." He clicked off the radio and stepped aside as the first bikes rumbled past. The riders didn't look at him. They didn't have to. Their presence said everything. The whole world was watching Riverside, Georgia, and Riverside had already lost. Principal Gregory Garrett stood on the front steps of Jefferson Elementary watching the impossible unfold. 500 motorcycles were pulling into his school's parking lot, spilling onto the street, filling every available space. Parents who'd been dropping off their children stopped and stared. Teachers came out of classrooms. Students pressed against windows. And at the center of it all, climbing out of a sidecar, was Maya Johnson. She was wearing a leather vest. She was surrounded by bikers, and she walked toward him with her head held high. Garrett had been principal for 15 years. He'd dealt with difficult parents, angry students, budget cuts, and teacher shortages. He'd survived by staying out of trouble, staying quiet, and staying on the right side of powerful people. The Whitfield family had made very clear which side that was. But now cameras were pointing at him, reporters were shouting questions, and a 7-year-old girl was looking at him like she knew exactly what kind of man he was. "Good morning, Maya," he managed. "Good morning, Principal Garrett." Her voice was steady, stronger than he'd ever heard it. "This is quite a situation." "Yes, sir. These are my friends. They're making sure I get to school safe." "I see." Garrett glanced at Bear, who stood directly behind Maya like a wall. "And will your friends be here every day?" Bear answered before Maya could. "As long as it takes. I'm not sure that's appropriate. Neither is letting a predator stalk one of your students for 3 weeks while you did nothing." Bear's voice was pleasant, almost friendly, which made it worse. "But we're not here to discuss the past. We're here to make sure Maya has a future." Garrett's face went red. "Now see here." "Principal Garrett," a woman's voice cut through. A reporter with a microphone stepped forward. "Kelly Chen, Channel 7 News. Can you comment on reports that Maya Johnson's mother filed multiple complaints about a stalker and was ignored by school administration?" "I know comment." "Is it true the stalker is Derek Whitfield, son of Harrison Whitfield? And is it true that Harrison Whitfield is a major donor to this school district?" "I said no comment." Another reporter pushed forward. "Principal Garrett, did you personally speak to Maya's teacher about her concerns?" "What about the school counselor? Did he dismiss Maya's reports as attention-seeking?" "Can you confirm there's a connection between the Whitfield family and the Riverside School Board?" Garrett backed up, his hands raised. "I have no comment. Please direct questions to the superintendent's office." He fled into the school. Maya watched him go. Then she turned to Bear. "Can I go to class now?" Bear smiled. It was the proudest smile Maya had ever seen. "Go learn something, little one. We'll be here when you get out." Maya walked through the front doors of Jefferson Elementary. The hallway was packed with students, all of them staring at her, whispering, pointing. She ignored them. For 3 weeks she'd been invisible, a problem nobody wanted to deal with, a voice nobody wanted to hear, not anymore. She walked to her classroom with her shoulders back and her head high. Mrs. Crawford was standing at the door, and for once she didn't have that look on her face, that look like Maya was wasting her time. "Maya, you're early." "Yes, ma'am." "Those people outside, They're my family. Mrs. Crawford opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Take your seat. Maya walked to her desk. She could feel every eye in the room on her. Tyler Patterson, who'd called her a liar last week, looked away when she met his gaze. Ashley Williams, who'd made fun of her for walking alone, suddenly found her pencil very interesting. Maya sat down. She pulled out her notebook, and she smiled. Outside Jefferson Elementary, the world was changing. Reporters swarmed Bear and his riders asking questions about the Brotherhood, about Maya's story, about why they'd come from hundreds of miles away to help a little girl they'd never met. Bear answered every question calmly, deliberately. He told them about the sealed complaints against Derek Whitfield, about the police officer who'd refused to investigate, about the principal who'd dismissed Maya's mother, about the school counselor who'd blamed a child for being stalked. "This isn't just about Maya," Bear said, looking directly into the camera. "This is about every child who's been silenced. Every family that's been told their voice doesn't matter because the other guy has more money, more power, more connections. We're here to say that's over. From now on, when a child asks for help, someone will listen." The interview clip went viral within an hour. By noon, cha-cha-cha. Protect Maya had been shared 2 million times. By mid-afternoon, national news networks were calling, wanting interviews, wanting the full story. And in his office at the Whitfield estate, Harrison Whitfield watched it all unfold. His phone rang, the mayor's number. "Harrison, we need to talk." "I'm watching. This is a disaster. I've got reporters calling my office. The governor's office reached out. Someone at the state level is asking questions about the Whitfield Foundation's donations to local law enforcement. It'll blow over. These things always do. This isn't going to blow over, Harrison. This is national news. They've got footage of 500 bikers escorting a black child to school because the police and school district failed her." "Do you have any idea how that looks?" Harrison gripped his phone. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting you get ahead of this. Make a statement. Express concern. Distance yourself from your son." "I will not throw my son under the bus." "Then you'll go down with him." The mayor's voice was cold. "I've supported your family for 20 years, Harrison, but I will not destroy my career to protect a boy who can't keep his hands off children." "How dare you?" "I dare, because I have to. The world is watching, and I will not be the villain in this story." The line went dead. Harrison stared at his phone. For the first time in his life, he realized money might not be enough. At 3:15 p.m., the final bell rang at Jefferson Elementary. Maya gathered her things and walked to the front doors. Her heart was pounding, but it wasn't fear this time. It was anticipation. She pushed open the doors. 500 riders stood waiting. When they saw her, they started clapping, then cheering, then chanting her name. "Maya, Maya, Maya!" Maya Johnson. 7 years old, stood on the top step of her school with tears streaming down her face. Bear walked up and knelt in front of her. "How was school, little one?" "Nobody bothered me. Not once." "That's how it's supposed to be." "Bear." Maya grabbed his hand. "Is it over?" Bear looked at her, this tiny girl who'd started a revolution by walking into a diner and asking for help. "Not yet," he said honestly. "But we're winning, and we're not going to stop until it is." Maya nodded. Then she climbed into the sidecar, put on her tiny helmet, and rode home, surrounded by 500 angels on motorcycles. The war had just begun, but Maya Johnson was no longer fighting alone. The celebration lasted exactly 47 hours. Bear got the call at 6:15 a.m. on Thursday morning. His contact at the county courthouse, a clerk named Patricia who owed him a favor from years back, spoke in hushed tones. "Marcus, they're moving fast. Emergency school board meeting scheduled for tonight, 7 o'clock. "What's on the agenda?" "Maya Johnson's enrollment status. They're calling it a safety review, but we both know what that means." Bear's grip tightened on his phone. "They're trying to expel her. They're trying to make this go away. Harrison Whitfield called in every favor he has. Half the board owes him money. The other half owes him their careers. Who's leading the charge?" Superintendent Collins, but he's just the mouthpiece. This is coming straight from Whitfield. Bear hung up and immediately dialed Keisha. She answered on the first ring. Bear, what's wrong? Get Maya ready for school. Same routine as yesterday. But tonight we've got a fight. What kind of fight? The kind where they try to take everything we've built in the last 2 days and burn it to the ground. Keisha's voice hardened. Over my dead body. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. The morning escort went smoothly. 300 riders this time. Some had returned home, but new ones had arrived to take their places. Maya climbed into the sidecar, wearing her leather vest, waved at the cameras, and rode to school like a queen on her throne. But Bear noticed something different today. Police cars lined the route, not helping with traffic, watching, waiting. They're documenting, Dante said quietly, pulling up beside Bear at a stoplight. Building a case. For what? Intimidation, harassment, whatever they can make stick. Whitfield's got lawyers working overtime. Let them work. We haven't broken a single law. Since when has that mattered to people like them? Bear didn't answer. He just kept riding. At Jefferson Elementary, Principal Garrett was nowhere to be seen. The assistant principal, a nervous woman named Mrs. Palmer, stood at the entrance instead. Maya Johnson. Maya looked up at her. Yes, ma'am. The superintendent would like to see you in his office. Your mother has been notified. Bear stepped forward. Nobody's taking this child anywhere without her mother present. Sir, this is school business. And I'm her advocate. She doesn't move until her mama gets here. Mrs. Palmer's face reddened. I don't have the authority to... Then get someone who does. 15 minutes later, Keisha arrived, still in her hospital scrubs. She'd left in the middle of her shift. Her supervisor would have words for her later, but right now, none of that mattered. What's going on? They want to take Maya to the superintendent's office, Bear explained. I told them not without you. Keisha grabbed Maya's hand. Then let's go see what the superintendent wants. Superintendent Raymond Collins was a thin man with a politician's smile and eyes that calculated every interaction like a chess move. He sat behind his desk, hands folded, watching as Keisha and Maya entered. Bear followed, and Collins' smile faltered. Mrs. Johnson, I wasn't expecting additional guests. Mr. Thompson is Maya's advocate. He stays. Collins' jaw tightened, but he nodded. Very well. Please sit. They sat. Maya kept her hand in her mother's, her eyes fixed on the superintendent. Mrs. Johnson, I want to assure you that Jefferson Elementary takes student safety very seriously. Is that why you're trying to expel my daughter? Collins blinked. I don't know where you heard. I heard there's an emergency board meeting tonight. I heard Maya's enrollment status is on the agenda. I heard Harrison Whitfield has been making phone calls. The superintendent's face went through several expressions before settling on carefully neutral. There are concerns about the disruption caused by recent events. My daughter isn't the disruption. The man stalking her is the disruption. Mrs. Johnson, I understand you believe. I don't believe. I know. Maya gave the police a license plate number. She described the vehicle. She described the driver. This isn't imagination. This is a predator targeting a child. Collins leaned forward. The allegations against Mr. Whitfield have not been substantiated. Because nobody will investigate them. That's a serious accusation. It's a fact. Bear spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Your police chief golfs with Harrison Whitfield every Sunday. Your school board chair received a $50,000 donation from the Whitfield Foundation last year. Your predecessor as superintendent was pushed out when he tried to investigate Derek Whitfield's behavior around children. You want to talk about serious accusations? Let's talk about a town that protects predators because they have money. Colin's face went pale. I don't know what you think you know. I know everything. I know about the 2 sealed complaints against Derek Whitfield. I know about the settlements his father paid to make those families disappear. I know about the police reports that were lost and the school records that were misfiled. You want to expel Maya for being the victim of a crime? Go ahead. But understand that the whole world is watching, and when they see what you're really protecting, they're going to burn this town down. The room went silent. Collins stared at Bear like he was seeing him for the first time, like he was finally understanding that this wasn't going to go away quietly. "The board meeting is at 7 o'clock, Collins finally said. "Mrs. Johnson is welcome to speak." "She will." "And the motorcyclists?" "Every single one of them." Collins swallowed hard. "This town has procedures, protocols. We can't just— Your procedures failed Maya. Your protocols protected her stalker. Tonight we show you what real protection looks like." Bear stood. Keisha stood. Maya stood. They walked out of the superintendent's office without looking back. The hours before the board meeting felt like years. Keisha went home to change. Maya did her homework at Mama Lou's, surrounded by bikers who helped her with math problems between phone calls. Bear coordinated with chapters across the southeast, making sure everyone knew where to be and when. At 5:30, Keisha's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. "Mrs. Johnson." The voice was smooth, cultured, dangerous. "My name is Harrison Whitfield. I believe we need to talk." Keisha's blood went cold. "I don't have anything to say to you." "Then just listen. I'm prepared to offer you a substantial settlement. $250,000. In exchange, you withdraw your complaints, keep Maya away from the media, and this all goes away. You're trying to buy my silence. I'm trying to resolve this like reasonable people. Your son stalked my daughter. He followed her to school. He asked her if she walked alone. He told her she couldn't get away from him. And you want me to take money and pretend it didn't happen. Mrs. Johnson, be practical. You're a single mother working 60-hour weeks. Think about what that money could do for Maya's future." Keisha's hand shook with rage. "My daughter's future doesn't include being bought off by predators." "You're making a mistake." "No, Mr. Whitfield. You made a mistake. You raised a son who hurts children. You protected him when you should have gotten him help, and now you think money can fix it. But some things can't be fixed. Some things have to be faced. If you pursue this, I will destroy you. I will dig into every corner of your life, every mistake you've ever made, every bill you've paid late, every moment you weren't a perfect mother. All of it will be public. Then do it, because I'd rather be destroyed than let you hurt another child." She hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to put the phone down. Maya appeared in the doorway. "Mommy, who was that?" Keisha looked at her daughter, this brave, beautiful girl who'd walked into a diner full of strangers because no one else would help her. "That was the man who's been protecting the bad guy. He wanted us to give up." "Are we going to—" Keisha pulled Maya into her arms. "Never, not ever. We're going to walk into that meeting tonight, and we're going to tell the truth. And if they try to kick you out of school, we'll find another school. And if they try to hurt us, we'll fight back. Because that's what we do, baby. That's who we are." Maya hugged her mother tight. "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too, baby girl, more than anything in this world." At 6:45 p.m., the parking lot of Riverside Town Hall was standing room only. 347 motorcycles filled every space, spilling onto side streets circling the block. Riders in leather vests stood at attention, creating a corridor from the parking lot to the entrance. News vans from 6 different networks jockeyed for position. Cameras flashed continuously. Maya walked through the corridor holding her mother's hand bare on her other side. She wore her leather vest over a clean blue dress. Her braids were neat, tied with purple ribbons that matched her favorite jacket. She looked like exactly what she was, a 7-year-old girl who should have been home watching cartoons, not walking into a fight for her right to go to school. The meeting room was packed. Every seat was taken. People stood along the walls, spilled into the hallway, pressed against the windows from outside. The school board sat at a long table at the front, looking uncomfortable. Superintendent Collins sat to the side, his face carefully blank. And in the front row, seated like he owned the place, was Harrison Whitfield. He turned when Maya entered. Their eyes met. Maya didn't look away. Neither did Whitfield. It was Whitfield who looked away first. Board Chair Martha Sullivan called the meeting to order. She was a thin woman with silver hair and a voice like sandpaper, the kind of woman who'd spent 40 years in local politics learning how to say nothing with lots of words. We're here tonight to discuss the enrollment status of Maya Johnson at Jefferson Elementary School. Due to recent events, concerns have been raised about the safety and well-being of all students. Whose safety? Someone shouted from the crowd. Maya's the one being stalked. Order, please. Sullivan's gavel came down. We will conduct this meeting in an orderly fashion. Anyone who disrupts will be removed. She shuffled her papers. We'll begin with a statement from Superintendent Collins. Collins stood. He couldn't seem to decide where to look at the board, at the crowd, at the cameras. He settled on a spot just above everyone's heads. Ladies and gentlemen, Jefferson Elementary has a proud history of providing quality education in a safe environment. Recent events have created significant disruption to that environment. We have received complaints from parents concerned about the presence of large groups of motorcyclists at school grounds. We have received concerns about media attention affecting student learning. Have you received any complaints about Derek Whitfield? Bear's voice cut through the room like a blade. Collins stopped. Have you received any complaints about a 23-year-old man following a 7-year-old girl to school? That's not what this meeting. Have you received any complaints about the fact that your school counselor told Maya she was seeking attention, that her teacher told her to find someone to walk with, that your principal refused to take action because the stalker's family donates money to this district? The room erupted. People were shouting. Cameras were flashing. Sullivan's gavel came down again and again. Order, order. It took 5 minutes to restore calm. Mr. Thompson, Sullivan said through gritted teeth, you will have an opportunity to speak during the public comment period. I'll hold you to that. Collins finished his statement, something about safety protocols and community standards, and other words that meant nothing. Then Sullivan opened the floor for public comment. The first speaker was Harrison Whitfield. He stood slowly adjusting his suit jacket and walked to the podium like he was approaching a throne. His voice was smooth, reasonable, practiced. Members of the board, friends, and neighbors, I want to address the elephant in the room. My son Derek has been accused of inappropriate behavior toward Maya Johnson. These accusations are false. Derek is a good young man who made the mistake of being friendly to a child who apparently misunderstood his intentions. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whitfield continued, the real disruption here isn't my son. It's the hundreds of outsiders who have invaded our town, intimidated our citizens, and turned a simple misunderstanding into a media circus. These people, he gestured toward the bikers, are not from Riverside. They don't pay taxes here. They don't send children to our schools. They have no stake in our community. And yet they've been allowed to disrupt our way of life. Your son stalked my daughter. Keisha was on her feet before she knew it. Mrs. Johnson, please. Sullivan's voice was tired. You'll have your turn. No, I won't be quiet. Keisha walked toward the podium. This man just called my daughter a liar. He just said his son was being friendly when he followed a 7-year-old for 3 weeks, asked her if she walked alone, told her she couldn't get away from him. That's your daughter's version of events. My daughter's version is the truth. She memorized his license plate number. She described his vehicle perfectly. She told every adult who would listen, and nobody believed her. Nobody believed her because this man, she pointed at Whitfield, has spent 30 years buying this town. The police chief, the school board, the superintendent, all of them in his pocket. That's defamatory. Sue me. I dare you. Sue me and let's see what discovery turns up. Let's see those sealed records. Let's see those settlements you paid to make other families disappear. Let's see exactly how much money it took to protect your predator son. The room went dead silent. Whitfield's face had gone from confident to furious. You have no idea what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about, and so does everyone in this room. The only question is whether they're brave enough to stop protecting you. Keisha turned to face the board. My daughter came to this school for 2 years without any problems. Then a man started following her. She asked for help. She was denied. She told the truth. She was called a liar. She went to the police. She was turned away. And when she finally found people who believed her, suddenly she's the problem. Suddenly her enrollment is under review. She shook her head. You should be ashamed. Every single one of you should be ashamed. You're supposed to protect children. That's your job. And you failed. You failed Maya, and you failed every other child this man's son has targeted. Because he didn't start with my daughter. She's not the first. She's just the first one who refused to be silent. Mrs. Johnson, Sullivan tried to interrupt, I'm not finished. You want to expel Maya, go ahead. Kick out the victim while the predator walks free. Show the world exactly what kind of town Riverside is. Show every parent watching this broadcast that their children don't matter unless they're rich and white. Show them that money buys protection and poor black girls get nothing. Keisha's voice cracked, but she kept going. My daughter is 7 years old. She should be worried about homework and play dates and whether she's going to get a puppy for Christmas. Instead, she can't sleep. She checks the windows every 5 minutes. She jumps at every sound. She's terrified not because of the bikers outside, but because a man has been hunting her, and nobody in this town would stop him. She wiped her eyes. So make your decision. Vote to expel her if that's what Harrison Whitfield wants. But know that the whole world is watching, and they'll never forget what you did here tonight. Keisha sat down. The room was utterly silent. Then someone started clapping. One person at first, then another, then 10, then 50. Then the whole room was on its feet, applauding, cheering, crying. Sullivan banged her gavel, but it was useless. The sound drowned everything. When the noise finally died down, Maya stood up. Every eye in the room turned to her. Maya, you don't have to, Keisha started. I want to Mommy. Maya walked to the podium. She was so small she couldn't see over it. One of the bikers brought a step stool. She climbed up and looked out at the crowd. My name is Maya Johnson. I'm 7 years old. I'm in second grade at Jefferson Elementary. Her voice was shaking, but she didn't stop. 3 weeks ago, a man started following me to school. He drove a white truck with a dent in the front. He asked me if I walked alone. He told me I couldn't get away from him. I was really scared. She paused, taking a breath. I told my teacher. She didn't believe me. I told the school counselor. He said I was looking for attention. I told the police. They said they couldn't help. Nobody believed me. Nobody except my mama. And then nobody would help her either. Maya looked at Bear standing against the wall. His eyes were wet. So I did something scary. I walked to a restaurant really early in the morning, and I asked some strangers for help. They were bikers. My mama always told me to stay away from people like that, but I was so scared and nobody else would help, and I thought, maybe they would. And they did. Maya's voice grew stronger. They believed me. They didn't ask for proof or tell me I was imagining things. They just believed me. And they showed up. Hundreds of them. From all over. Just because I asked. She turned to face Harrison Whitfield directly. Mister, I don't know you, but I know your son. He followed me every day. He scared me so bad I couldn't eat or sleep. And when I see you sitting there in your nice suit telling everyone I'm a liar, it makes me really sad. Because somewhere inside you know the truth. You know what your son did. And instead of helping him get better, you just keep protecting him so he can hurt more kids. Whitfield's face was purple with rage, but he didn't say a word. Maya turned back to the board. I don't want to be expelled. I like my school. I like my friends. I like my teacher, even though she didn't believe me at first. But if you kick me out because telling the truth is disruption, then maybe this isn't a school I want to be at anyway. Because schools are supposed to be safe. And safe means being believed when you tell the truth. She climbed down from the step stool. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. The room exploded. People were crying, cheering, shouting. Cameras flashed continuously. Someone started chanting, "Believe Maya," and it spread through the crowd like wildfire. Sullivan couldn't restore order. She didn't even try. Board member after board member abandoned their seats, some walking out, others approaching Keisha to offer support. The vote that was supposed to happen never did. In the chaos, Harrison Whitfield stood and pushed toward the exit. Bear intercepted him. Going somewhere, Mr. Whitfield. Get out of my way. In a minute. First, I want you to know something. Bear leaned close, his voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot. We know about the other girls. We know about the sealed records. We know about the payments you made. And in about—" He checked his watch. 3 hours, the FBI is going to know, too. Whitfield's face went white. "You're bluffing. Try me. I'll have you arrested for threatening me. I haven't threatened anything. I've informed you of facts. What you do with that information is your business." Bear smiled a cold, dangerous smile. "But if I were you, I'd start making phone calls, because by tomorrow morning your empire is going to come crashing down." Bear stepped aside. Whitfield stumbled toward the exit, surrounded by his lawyers, his face the color of ash. Outside, the night air was electric. Maya stood surrounded by bikers, reporters, supporters, strangers who'd become family. Cameras flashed, questions were shouted. But Maya just stood there holding her mother's hand, breathing. It was over, or at least this part was over. At 10:47 p.m., Bear's phone rang. "Marcus, it's Patricia again. You need to get to the police station." "What happened?" "FBI just arrived. They've got warrants for Derek Whitfield, Chief Gibson, and 3 officers including Danny Weber." Bear closed his eyes. "How?" "Apparently someone sent them a file. 3 years of documentation, sealed records, payment receipts, everything. They've been building a case for the last 48 hours. Derek Whitfield is being arrested as we speak. And Harrison? No warrant yet, but they're talking to him. And Marcus, one of the FBI agents, is black, a woman. She asked specifically to be assigned to this case." Bear didn't trust himself to speak. "Marcus, you there?" Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Patricia, for everything. Thank Maya. That little girl started something nobody can stop now." Bear hung up and walked to where Keisha and Maya were sitting in Mama Lou's back booth, exhausted but unable to sleep. "It's happening," he said quietly. "FBI's arresting Derek Whitfield right now. The chief, too, and a few others." Keisha's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God! It's real, Keisha. It's actually happening." Maya looked up at Bear with eyes too old for her face. "Does this mean I don't have to be scared anymore?" Bear knelt down, taking her small hands in his massive ones. "It means the bad man is going to jail. It means the people who protected him are going to face consequences. But Maya, I need you to understand something. What? This isn't over. There's going to be a trial. You might have to testify. Tell your story again to a judge and jury. It's going to be hard, but you won't be alone. Not ever. Do you understand?" Maya nodded slowly. "I understand. Are you ready for that?" She looked at her mother, at Bear, at the room full of bikers who'd traveled hundreds of miles just to protect her. "I've been ready since I walked into this restaurant and asked for help." Bear smiled through tears he didn't bother to hide. "That's my girl." Outside, the sound of sirens filled the night as Derek Whitfield was loaded into a federal vehicle, his hands cuffed behind his back, his face captured by a dozen cameras. The empire was falling, and a 7-year-old girl had pushed the first domino. The news spread like wildfire through Riverside. Derek Whitfield arrested. Chief Gibson arrested. 3 officers in handcuffs. Federal warrants, sealed records unsealed, payment receipts seized, an empire that had stood for 3 generations crumbling in a single night. Maya slept through it all. She'd fallen asleep in the back booth of Mama Lou's kitchen around midnight, her head on her mother's lap, her tiny body finally surrendering to exhaustion. Keisha sat motionless, afraid to move, watching her daughter breathe. Bear sat across from them, phone in hand, fielding calls that came every few minutes. Updates from Patricia at the courthouse, updates from brothers monitoring police scanners, updates from journalists wanting statements. At 3:47 a.m., his phone rang again. "Marcus." The voice was unfamiliar, female, professional. "This is Special Agent Victoria Hayes, FBI. We need to meet." "It's almost 4 in the morning. I'm aware of the time. I'm also aware that you have information critical to our investigation. The coffee shop on 5th Street opens at 5. I'll be waiting." She hung up before Bear could respond. He looked at Keisha, still stroking Maya's braids. FBI wants to talk. Now, soon, will you be okay here? Dante's outside, Jamal's in the kitchen, we're surrounded by family. Keisha managed a tired smile. Go, find out what they know. Bear stood, grabbed his jacket, and paused at the door. Keisha, yeah? We did good tonight, all of us, but especially Maya. That speech she gave, I've heard generals who couldn't speak like that. Keisha's eyes filled with tears. She gets it from her grandmother. She gets it from you. He left before she could respond. Special Agent Victoria Hayes was already seated when Bear arrived at the coffee shop. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe early 40s, with natural hair pulled back in a professional style and eyes that missed nothing. She didn't stand when he approached. Mr. Thompson, sit. Bear sat. He didn't like being ordered around, but he was smart enough to recognize when cooperation served his interests. Coffee. Already ordered, black 2 sugars. You have a file. Hayes smiled slightly. We have files on everyone who showed up at that school board meeting. Yours is interesting. 2 tours in Vietnam, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, honorable discharge, then 23 years of community activism. That's one way to put it. The Brotherhood Riders have been on our radar for years, mostly positive. You've helped a lot of people, Mr. Thompson. Marcus, and we try. Marcus. She leaned forward. I'm going to be direct with you because I don't have time for games. We've been building a case against the Whitfield family for 18 months. Derek Whitfield has been targeting vulnerable children, specifically black girls from single-parent households, for at least 5 years. We know of 7 victims. We suspect there are more. Bear's stomach turned. 7. That we can confirm. The Whitfield family has been systematically destroying evidence and paying off families. We've recovered some of that evidence. Bank records, sealed court documents, private communications. But we're missing something crucial. What? Testimony. The other victims won't talk. They signed NDAs as part of their settlements. They're terrified of the Whitfield family's reach. And without their testimony, our case relies entirely on Maya Johnson. Bear understood immediately. You want her to carry the whole thing. I want her to lead it. There's a difference. Hayes pulled out a folder. Derek Whitfield is being charged with stalking attempted abduction and possession of exploitative material. With Maya's testimony and the evidence we have, we can put him away for 15 to 20 years. But if the other victims come forward, if they're willing to testify about a pattern of behavior, we're looking at federal trafficking charges. That's life without parole. And Harrison Whitfield. That's where it gets complicated. Hayes flipped through her folder. Harrison has been careful. He's never directly communicated about covering up his son's crimes. Everything went through intermediaries, lawyers, accountants, local officials. But if we can prove he knew what Derek was doing and actively concealed it, we can charge him as an accessory. That's 20 to 30 years. So you need the other families to talk. I need them to feel safe enough to talk. That's where you come in. Bear studied her. You want the Brotherhood to protect them. I want you to reach out. Tell them what you did for Maya. Show them they're not alone. Help them understand that the Whitfield machine is broken and it's not coming back. And if they still won't talk, Hayes closed her folder, then we do the best we can with what we have. But Marcus, I've been doing this job for 16 years. I've never seen a case move this fast, generate this much attention, or create this much pressure on a corrupt system. That's because of you, because of Maya, because of what you built in 3 days. She stood. The question is, are you willing to build more? Bear thought about his daughter, about the drainage ditch where they'd found her body 30 years ago, about all the years since all the children he couldn't save. Tell me what you need. The sun rose over Riverside at 6:52 a.m., and the town woke up to a different world. The news crews hadn't left. If anything, there were more of them now. National networks had arrived overnight, their satellite trucks lining Main Street, their anchors doing live shots in front of the police station, the courthouse, Jefferson Elementary, and the story kept growing. By 8 a.m., the Whitfield family's carefully constructed facade had been completely demolished. old allegations surfaced. Former employees came forward with stories about Derek's behavior that had been suppressed for years. A former maid described finding inappropriate materials in Derek's room when he was 17. A former groundskeeper talked about seeing Derek follow neighborhood children. A former teacher fired after raising concerns finally had her story validated. Harrison Whitfield watched it all from his study alone. His lawyers had advised him to stay quiet. His publicist had advised him to issue a statement expressing concern and promising cooperation. His wife had locked herself in her bedroom and refused to speak to him. At 9:15 a.m., his phone rang. The mayor's number. Harrison. Gerald, I need you to... I'm calling to inform you that the City Council is holding an emergency session this afternoon. We're discussing the removal of the Whitfield name from the community center, the library, and the youth sports complex. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious. This town is trying to survive Harrison, and right now your family name is poison. I've given this town millions of dollars, and your son used that goodwill to hunt children. Whatever we owe you, it doesn't include protecting that. Gerald, please, think about what you're doing. I've thought about nothing else since 3 a.m. Goodbye, Harrison. The line went dead. Harrison Whitfield sat in his study, surrounded by the trophies of a lifetime of success, and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. Real, genuine, bone-deep fear. Because for the first time in his life, money couldn't fix this. Maya woke up at 10 a.m. feeling strange. It took her a moment to realize what was different. She wasn't scared. For 3 weeks she'd woken up with her heart pounding, her stomach churning, her mind racing through escape routes and hiding places. But this morning the fear was quieter, still there but muffled like a radio playing in another room. She sat up in the booth at Mama Lou's. Her mother was gone, but Dante sat across from her scrolling through his phone. Morning, little warrior. Your mama's in the kitchen with Mama Lou. You hungry? Where's Bear in handling business? He'll be back soon. Dante smiled. You made the news again. Every channel. They're calling you the girl who broke Riverside. I didn't break anything. No, you didn't. You fixed something that was broken. Big difference. Maya thought about that. Dante. Yeah. Is Derek Whitfield really going to jail? He's already in jail. Federal holding facility. No bail. Forever. That's what the trial will decide. But Maya, the things they found on his computer, he's not getting out anytime soon. What things? Dante's expression shifted. That's not something you need to worry about right now. Just know that you did the right thing. You told the truth when it was hard. And because of that, a lot of other kids are safer. Other kids. Yeah. Turns out Derek was doing this to other girls too, for a long time. You're not the only one he hurt. Maya felt something twist in her chest. Why didn't they tell anyone? They tried, just like you tried, but nobody believed them either. Their families got scared, took money to stay quiet, moved away. You're the first one who didn't give up. Because I found you. Because you found the courage to ask for help. We were just lucky enough to be there when you did. Keisha appeared with a plate of eggs and bacon. Baby, you need to eat. I'm not hungry. Maya Rose Johnson, you will eat these eggs or so help me. Okay? Maya took the plate. Mommy? Yeah, baby. Are there really other girls? Keisha sat down heavily. She exchanged a look with Dante. Yes, baby. There are. Can we help them too? Keisha's eyes filled with tears. That's exactly what Bear's trying to do right now. The first family was in Atlanta. Bear rode south with Jamal and 2 other brothers following the address Agent Hayes had provided. The Williams family. Their daughter Destiny had been 9 when Derek Whitfield started following her. That was 4 years ago. The family had taken a settlement, signed an NDA, and moved from Riverside to Atlanta to escape the memories. The house was modest, well kept, with a swing set in the backyard that looked like it hadn't been used in years. Bear knocked. The door opened a crack. A woman's eye appeared. Whatever you're selling, we don't want any. Mrs. Williams, my name is Marcus Thompson. I'm with the Brotherhood Riders. We're the ones who helped Maya Johnson. The door didn't open any wider. I saw the news. Then you know why I'm here. I know you want us to talk. We can't. We signed papers. Those papers might not mean what you think they mean. The FBI says the NDAs were obtained through fraud and coercion. They might not be enforceable. Might. Maybe. Probably. Mrs. Williams's voice was bitter. I've heard those words before, and every time the Whitfield family wins. Every single time. Not this time. How do you know? Because this time the whole world is watching. Derek Whitfield is in federal custody. The police chief is in custody. Half the town officials are lawyering up. The machine that protected them is broken. The door opened another inch. Bear could see more of Mrs. Williams' face now. She was young, mid-30s maybe, with tired eyes and hair that was going gray too early. My daughter hasn't been the same since it happened. She doesn't trust anyone, doesn't make friends, has nightmares almost every night. And you want me to put her through a trial? I want to give you a choice. That's all. A real choice, not one made under threat. What choice? The choice to let Destiny tell her story, on her terms, with protection, with support, with people who believe her. Mrs. Williams was quiet for a long moment. Wait here. The door closed. Bear waited. 5 minutes passed. 10, 15. Then the door opened all the way. A girl stood there. 13 years old now, tall for her age, with braids and a guarded expression that Bear recognized. It was the look of someone who'd learned too young that the world wasn't safe. You're the biker man, Destiny said. From the news. I am. You helped that little girl, Maya. I did. Why? Bear knelt down so he was at eye level with her. Because 30 years ago someone hurt my daughter, and nobody helped her. Nobody believed her. Nobody stopped it. I couldn't save her. But I can try to help others. That's all I can do. That's all any of us can do. Destiny studied him with eyes too old for her face. He followed me for 2 months. Derek Whitfield. He said he wanted to be my friend. He said we had secrets together. He said if I told anyone, nobody would believe me because his family was important and mine wasn't. But you told anyway. Yeah, and nobody believed me, just like he said. I believe you, Destiny. Every word. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of having nightmares. I'm tired of feeling like it was my fault. It wasn't your fault. None of it was your fault. I know. But knowing and feeling are different things. Bear nodded. Yes, they are. It takes time. It takes help. But it gets better. I promise. You can't promise that. You're right. But I can promise that you won't be alone. Whatever you decide, whatever happens next, you'll have people who believe you, people who will fight for you, people who will stand beside you when it's hard. Destiny looked at her mother, who was crying silently in the doorway. Mama, it's your choice, baby. Whatever you want to do, I'll support you. Destiny turned back to Bear. If I testify, will it help other girls? It will help put Derek Whitfield away for the rest of his life. It will help send a message that money can't buy silence anymore. And it will help other girls know they're not alone. Destiny was quiet for a long moment. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it. Bear let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Thank you, Destiny. You're braver than you know. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being scared. That's the same thing, Bear said. That's exactly the same thing. Over the next 2 weeks, Bear and his brothers visited 6 more families. The Robinsons in Birmingham, whose daughter Aaliyah had been 7 when Derek started following her. The Jacksons in Charlotte, whose twin daughters had both been targeted. The Hendersons in Memphis, the Carters in Nashville, the Montgomerys in Savannah. Each visit was different. Each family had their own pain, their own fears, their own reasons for staying silent. But one by one they agreed to testify. 7 victims, 7 families. 7 stories that painted a picture of systematic predation protected by wealth and power. Agent Hayes was building her case, and Harrison Whitfield was growing desperate. The phone call came 3 weeks after Derek's arrest. Keisha was at work when her supervisor pulled her aside. "There's a man in the lobby asking for you. Says it's urgent." She found a lawyer waiting, expensive suit, expensive watch, expensive smile. "Mrs. Johnson, my name is Robert Klein. I represent Harrison Whitfield. I have nothing to say to you. Please just hear me out. 5 minutes. Your client's son stalked my daughter. Your client tried to bribe me to stay quiet. Your client threatened to destroy my life. Why would I give you 5 seconds? Klein's smile didn't waver. "Because I'm not here to threaten. I'm here to offer. Another settlement I already told Harrison Whitfield. Not a settlement. A job." And Keisha stared at him. "What?" "Riverside General is struggling financially. Budget cuts, staff shortages, you know how it is. But there's a new hospital opening in Clayton County. State-of-the-art facility. They're looking for experienced ER nurses. The salary is nearly double what you're making now. Benefits package is excellent. And the commute from your current apartment would only be about 40 minutes. You want to pay me to leave town? I want to offer you an opportunity. What you do with it is your choice. And if I take this opportunity, what happens to Maya's testimony?" Klein's smile flickered. "The job offer has nothing to do with the trial." "Right. Just a coincidence that you're offering me my dream job 3 weeks before your client's son goes to court." "Mrs. Johnson, I'm trying to help you." "No, you're trying to help Harrison Whitfield, and you're using my daughter's future to do it." Keisha stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell your client something for me. Tell him I grew up poor. I raised my daughter alone. I worked 60-hour weeks just to keep a roof over our heads. I know what it's like to struggle, and I would struggle for the rest of my life before I let his son get away with what he did. Mrs. Johnson, get out of my hospital, and tell Harrison Whitfield that if he sends anyone else to approach me, my family, or anyone I care about, I'll add witness tampering to the list of charges." She turned and walked away. Her hands were shaking, but her head was high. That night she told Bear about the encounter. His response was immediate. "This is good. Good. They tried to bribe me again. They tried because they're scared. They're running out of options. Their money isn't working anymore. Their connections are abandoning them, and the trial is 3 weeks away. They're desperate. What if they try something else? Then we'll be ready." Bear pulled out his phone. "I'm doubling the watch on your apartment, and I'm calling Agent Hayes. Attempted witness tampering is a federal offense. This might just add to their problems." Keisha sank onto the couch. Maya was asleep in her room, finally sleeping through the night again. The nightmares were less frequent now. The flinching had almost stopped. "Bear, what happens after the trial?" "What do you mean?" "I mean when this is over. When Derek's in prison and Harrison's lost everything. What happens to us? What happens to Maya?" Bear sat down across from her. "That's up to you. But if you're asking whether the Brotherhood is going to disappear once the cameras are gone, the answer is no. Maya's family now. That doesn't expire. We can't expect you to protect us forever. You don't have to expect anything. You just have to know we'll be here." Keisha wiped her eyes. "I never thanked you properly. For everything. You don't have to thank me." "Yeah, I do. Because 3 weeks ago, I was ready to give up. I'd tried everything, called everyone, hit every wall, and I was sitting in my apartment at 2 in the morning, wondering if I should just pack up Maya and run. Start over somewhere else. Let Derek Whitfield win." "What stopped you?" "Maya did. She walked out that door at 5 in the morning without telling me. She walked across town in the dark to ask strangers for help. My 7-year-old daughter was braver than I was." "She learned that bravery from you, Keisha." "Maybe. But she learned to act on it from you. You showed her that asking for help isn't weakness. You showed her that strangers can become family. You showed her that good people still exist." Bear was quiet for a long moment. 30 years ago, I couldn't save my daughter. I've spent every day since then trying to find a reason to keep going. Helping Maya. It doesn't erase what happened. Nothing can erase that. But it gives it meaning. Makes all that pain worth something. "Bear?" "Yeah." "What was her name? Your daughter?" Bear's eyes grew distant. "Angela. We called her Angel." "That's beautiful." "She was beautiful. Smart, funny. She had this laugh that could light up a room. He paused. I hear it sometimes in my dreams. That laugh. And then I wake up and she's gone all over again. Keisha reached across and took his hand. I'm sorry. Me too. Bear squeezed her hand. But Maya's here. She's alive. She's going to grow up and do amazing things. And every time I look at her, I see a future my angel never got to have. That's not nothing. That's everything. The weeks before the trial passed in a blur of preparation. Agent Hayes met with Maya 3 times, walking her through what to expect, how to answer questions, what the defense might try to do. Dr. Pamela Wright, a child psychologist recommended by the FBI, worked with Maya on coping strategies and stress management. Maya handled it all with a maturity that broke Keisha's heart. You shouldn't have to do this, Keisha said one night, watching Maya practice her testimony in front of the mirror. I know, but I want to. Why? Maya turned to face her mother. Because if I don't, Derek might hurt someone else, and then I'd feel like it was my fault. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. I just wish it wasn't true. Me too, Mommy. Me too. The night before the trial, Bear brought a gift to Mama Lou's kitchen. It was a small leather patch, hand-stitched with a roaring lion and 3 words, Voice of Courage. This is for you, he said, pressing it into Maya's hands. It's a new patch, just for you, the first one ever made. Maya traced the letters with her finger. Voice of Courage. Because that's what you are. You spoke when nobody else would. You told the truth when it was hard. You gave other girls the courage to come forward. That's more than most people do in a lifetime. You did it at 7 years old. Maya clutched the patch to her chest. Thank you, Papa Bear. It was the first time she'd called him that. Bear's eyes filled with tears. You're welcome, little lion. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. Maya hugged him tight. Will you be there at the courthouse? Every second, right there in the front row, and if you get scared, you just look at me. I'll be there. Promise. Promise. That night, Maya slept holding the patch in her hand. She didn't have a single nightmare. The morning of the trial dawned gray and cold. Maya woke early, dressed in her blue dress with the leather vest over it, the same outfit she'd worn to the school board meeting. Her mother braided her hair with purple ribbons. Bear arrived at 7, wearing a clean shirt under his leather jacket. Outside, Mama Lou's 200 riders waited. They rode to the federal courthouse in formation, just like they'd ridden to Jefferson Elementary 6 weeks ago. But this time felt different, heavier, more final. At the courthouse steps, Maya paused. Mommy, yes, baby. Whatever happens in there, I want you to know something. What? I'm not scared anymore. Maya looked up at the courthouse, at the cameras, at the crowd. I was scared for so long, but I'm not scared now, because I know the truth, and I know people believe me, and I know I'm not alone. Keisha knelt down and cupped her daughter's face in her hands. Maya Rose Johnson, you are the bravest person I have ever known. Whatever happens in there, you've already won. You understand, you've already won. Maya nodded. I understand. Then let's go show them what courage looks like. Hand in hand, mother and daughter walked up the courthouse steps. Bear followed, flanked by Dante and Jamal. Behind them, 200 riders stood at attention. And inside, Derek Whitfield sat at the defense table, watching his future disappear. The courtroom was packed. Every seat filled, people standing along the walls, cameras positioned at every angle, the weight of attention so heavy, Maya could feel it pressing against her chest. Judge Eleanor Richardson sat at the bench, a black woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and eyes that had seen every trick lawyers could pull. She'd been assigned to the case specifically, a federal judge with a reputation for fairness and zero tolerance for games. Derek Whitfield sat at the defense table, flanked by 3 lawyers his father had hired. He looked different now, thinner, paler. The arrogance Maya remembered from his truck window was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Good, Maya thought. Now he knows how it feels. All rise, the bailiff called. Court is now in session. The trial began. Agent Hayes had explained the process to Maya. Opening statements, witness testimony, cross-examination, closing arguments, verdict. It could take days, maybe weeks. Maya would need to be patient, but Maya wasn't thinking about patience. She was thinking about the 7 other girls who would testify before her. Girls who'd been silent for years. Girls who'd been paid to disappear. Girls who'd found their voices because Maya found hers first. The prosecution's opening statement was surgical. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about power. The power to hurt children, the power to silence families, the power to corrupt institutions. Derek Whitfield believed his family's wealth made him untouchable. For 5 years, he was right. He targeted vulnerable children, specifically young black girls from single-parent households, because he believed no one would believe them. He was almost right about that, too. The prosecutor paused, looking at the jury. But then he made a mistake. He targeted Maya Johnson. And Maya Johnson refused to be silent. Derek's lead attorney gave a different opening. He called Derek a troubled young man who'd made poor choices. He called the allegations exaggerated. He suggested the witnesses had been coached, manipulated, paid to lie. Maya watched the jury's faces during the defense's opening. She saw doubt in some, skepticism in others. One woman, a grandmother type with gray hair and kind eyes, looked directly at Maya and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Maya nodded back. The first witness was Destiny Williams. She was 13 now, tall and serious, wearing a dress her mother had bought just for the trial. She walked to the witness stand with her shoulders back and her chin up, looking nothing like the scared girl Bear had met in Atlanta. "State your name for the record." "Destiny Marie Williams." "How old were you when you first encountered Derek Whitfield?" 9. "Can you describe what happened?" Destiny took a deep breath. "He started following me on my way to school. At first I thought it was a coincidence. But then he rolled down his window and talked to me, asked my name, asked if I had friends, asked if I walked alone. What did you do? I told my mama. She believed me. We went to the police. And what happened when you went to the police? They said they'd look into it. But nothing happened. A week later, a man came to our house, a lawyer. He said the Whitfield family wanted to help us. He said they'd give us money if we moved away and didn't talk about what happened. Did your family accept this offer?" "Yes." Destiny's voice cracked. "We were scared. We didn't have money for lawyers. We didn't know what else to do." "How much did the Whitfield family pay you?" $50,000. And we had to sign papers saying we'd never talk about it. The prosecutor nodded. "And yet you're here today talking about it. Why?" Destiny looked at Maya. Their eyes met across the courtroom. "Because Maya Johnson showed me I didn't have to be afraid anymore. Because she was 7 years old and she stood up when nobody else would. If she could do that, I figured I could too." The defense attorney rose for cross-examination. "Miss Williams, you signed a non-disclosure agreement, correct?" "Yes." "And you accepted $50,000 from the Whitfield family?" "Yes." "So you took their money and then broke your promise. Why should the jury believe anything you say?" Destiny didn't flinch. "Because I was 9 years old when I signed that paper. 9. I didn't understand what I was signing. I just knew my mama was crying and a man was telling us we had to move away or something bad would happen." "Something bad? Did anyone threaten you?" "They didn't have to threaten us with words. The threat was everywhere. Derek Whitfield's family owned our town. They owned the police. They owned the school. They owned everything. When people like that want you to disappear, you disappear. That's speculation. That's my life." Destiny's voice rose. "That's what I lived. You can call it whatever you want, but I know what happened to me, and I know he—" She pointed at Derek. "Followed me, talked to me, made me afraid to walk to school, made me afraid to leave my house, made me afraid of everything." The defense attorney sat down. He knew when he was losing. One by one, the other victims testified. Aaliyah Robinson, now 11, described how Derek had appeared at her bus stop every morning for 3 weeks. The Jackson twins, now 14, talked about finding photographs of themselves on Derek's phone, photographs taken from a distance without their knowledge. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same. Young black girls, single mothers, families without resources to fight back, silence purchased with money and threats. By the end of the third day, the defense's case was crumbling. Derek's lawyers tried everything. They questioned the victims' memories. They suggested the families were after money. They implied the Brotherhood riders had coached the witnesses. Nothing worked. The jury wasn't buying it. And then it was Maya's turn. She woke up at 5 a.m. on the morning of her testimony. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Derek's face in that truck window, heard his voice asking if she walked alone. But she wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She was ready. Keisha helped her dress. The blue dress, the leather vest, the purple ribbons in her braids. Maya looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the girl staring back. She looked older somehow, stronger. "You don't have to do this," Keisha said for the 100th time. "The other testimonies are strong. The case doesn't depend on you." "I know, Mommy, but I want to." "Why?" Maya turned to face her mother. "Because for 3 weeks I couldn't talk. Nobody would listen. Nobody would believe me. And now a whole courtroom full of people wants to hear what I have to say. How could I not speak?" Keisha pulled her daughter into a hug. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from you." At the courthouse, Bear was waiting. He knelt down and took Maya's hands. "Remember what I told you. If you get scared, look at me. I'll be right there in the front row. And whatever happens, you've already won. You understand, no matter what anyone says in there, you've already won." "I understand, Papa Bear." "Good girl. Now go show them who Maya Johnson is." The walk to the witness stand felt like the longest walk of Maya's life. Every eye in the courtroom was on her. Cameras tracked her movement. The jury watched her with expressions she couldn't read. She climbed into the witness chair. It was too big for her. Her feet didn't touch the floor. Someone brought a step stool so she could sit properly. "State your name for the record." "Maya Rose Johnson." "How old are you, Maya?" 7. "I'll be 8 in 3 months." "Can you tell the court in your own words what happened to you?" Maya took a breath. She looked at Bear sitting in the front row exactly where he'd promised. He nodded. She began. 3 weeks before I went to Mama Lou's kitchen, a man started following me to school. He drove a white truck with a dent in the front. The first time I thought maybe it was a coincidence, but then he rolled down his window and talked to me." "What did he say?" "He said, 'Hey there, pretty girl.' He asked if I walked alone. I didn't answer. I just walked faster." "Did you see him again?" "Every day. He followed me every single day. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes when school let out. He always found me." "Did you tell anyone?" "I told everyone. I told my teacher, Mrs. Crawford. She said I was being dramatic. I told the school counselor, Mr. Bennett. He said I was looking for attention. I told the police officer, Mr. Weber. He said there was nothing to investigate." "How did that make you feel?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "Like I was invisible. Like my words didn't matter. Like nobody cared if something bad happened to me." "What happened on the last day Derek Whitfield followed you?" "He was waiting for me. Not driving by waiting. His truck was parked at the corner. When I tried to cross the street to get away from him, he drove around and found me on the other side." "What did he say?" "He said I couldn't get away from him. He said we were going to be friends whether I liked it or not. He asked me my name again. And then he said something that scared me more than anything." "What did he say?" Maya's voice dropped. "He said he knew where I lived. He said he'd seen my apartment. He said my mama worked nights and left me all alone." The courtroom was absolutely silent. "What did you do?" "I ran. I ran until I couldn't breathe. And that night I heard my mama crying because nobody would help us. That's when I decided I had to do something. I had to find someone who would believe me." "And you found the Brotherhood riders?" "I found Bear. He believed me the first time I told him. He didn't ask for proof. He didn't say I was imagining things. He just believed me." The prosecutor nodded. "Maya, I'm going to ask you to do something difficult. Can you identify the man who followed you? Is he in this courtroom?" Maya looked at Derek Whitfield. He tried to hold her gaze. He couldn't. "That's him," Maya said, pointing. "That's the man who followed me, the man who said I couldn't get away, the man who made me afraid to walk to school." "Let the record show the witness has identified the defendant." The prosecutor turned back to Maya. "One more question. Maya, why did you decide to testify today?" Maya thought about the question. It was the same question everyone had been asking her. Why speak up? Why put herself through this? "Because I wasn't the first girl Derek Whitfield hurt, but I wanted to be the last. And the only way to make sure he can't hurt anyone else is to tell the truth. Even when it's scary, even when people don't want to hear it. The truth is the only thing that can stop him." No further questions. The defense attorney stood slowly. Maya could see him calculating, trying to figure out how to discredit a 7-year-old without looking like a monster. "Maya, you say Derek Whitfield followed you. Did you ever see him get out of his truck?" "No." "Did he ever touch you?" "No." "Did he ever directly threaten to harm you?" "He said I couldn't get away from him. That felt like a threat." "But he didn't say he was going to hurt you." "He didn't have to say it. I knew." "How did you know?" Maya looked at the defense attorney with eyes that had seen too much for 7 years. "Because I'm a little black girl. And people like Derek Whitfield don't follow little black girls because they want to be friends. They follow us because they think we're easy targets. They think nobody will believe us. They think nobody will care." She paused. "But they were wrong about me. And they were wrong about all those other girls, too." The defense attorney opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No further questions. Maya climbed down from the witness stand. She walked past the defense table, past Derek Whitfield, past the lawyers and the cameras and the jury. She walked straight to Bear and let him wrap his arms around her. "You did it, little lion," he whispered. "You did it. Is it over?" "Almost. Just the closing arguments and the verdict." "How long?" "Could be hours, could be days. But Maya, no matter what happens, you should know something. You just changed history in there. Every person who watched you testify will never forget it. Whatever the jury decides, that can't be undone." And the closing arguments took 4 hours. The prosecution summarized the evidence. 7 victims, years of predatory behavior, a family that used wealth and power to silence accusers, a system so corrupted that a 7-year-old girl had to walk into a diner full of strangers just to find someone who would believe her. The defense argued reasonable doubt, no physical evidence, no witnesses to actual crimes, just the word of girls who'd been paid to stay quiet and then changed their minds. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Maya spent those hours at Mama Lou's kitchen surrounded by bikers who'd become family. She tried to eat, couldn't, tried to sleep, couldn't, tried to play games on Keisha's phone, couldn't concentrate. At 7:47 p.m., Bear's phone rang. "Verdict's in." They rushed back to the courthouse. The jury was already seated when they arrived. Derek Whitfield stood at the defense table, his face gray. Judge Richardson addressed the jury. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The forewoman stood. She was the grandmother Maya had noticed on the first day, the one who'd nodded at her. "We have, Your Honor." "On the charge of stalking a minor, how do you find Okoye guilty?" Maya's heart stopped. "On the charge of attempted abduction, how do you find guilty? On the charge of possession of exploitative material involving minors, how do you find guilty? On the federal charge of conspiracy to obstruct justice, how do you find the guilty?" Derek Whitfield's legs gave out. His lawyers had to catch him. "On the charge of witness tampering, how do you find guilty? On all remaining charges, guilty on all counts, Your Honor." The courtroom erupted. Maya stood frozen, unable to process what she was hearing. Guilty. Guilty on everything. Derek Whitfield was going to prison. Keisha grabbed her, sobbing. "You did it, baby. You did it." Bear lifted Maya onto his shoulders so she could see above the crowd. She looked at the chaos, the reporters shouting, the families of other victims crying and hugging Derek Whitfield being led away in handcuffs, and she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Free. Judge Richardson's gavel came down. "Order, order in the court." The noise slowly subsided. "Sentencing will take place in 4 weeks. Mr. Whitfield, you are remanded to federal custody without bail until that time." She looked at Maya, still on Bear's shoulders. "Young lady, the court would like to thank you for your courage. What you did here, what all these young women did, took extraordinary bravery. The justice system failed you, but you refused to let that failure stand. That is something this court will never forget." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Court is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, the celebration was deafening. 300 riders revved their engines. News crews pressed forward, shouting questions. Supporters who'd traveled from across the country cheered and waved signs. Maya stood on the courthouse steps, holding her mother's hand, looking at the crowd. A reporter pushed through. Maya Johnson, how do you feel?" Maya thought about the question. How did she feel? Relieved, exhausted, grateful, overwhelmed? "I feel like maybe things can get better now," she said finally. "Not just for me, for everyone." 4 weeks later, Derek Whitfield was sentenced to 32 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. Harrison Whitfield, charged as an accessory after the fact, and with multiple counts of obstruction of justice, received 18 years. Chief Walter Gibson received 12 years for corruption and obstruction. Officer Danny Weber received 8 years for his role in suppressing complaints. Principal Gregory Garrett lost his teaching license permanently and faced civil suits from multiple families. Superintendent Raymond Collins resigned in disgrace. The Whitfield empire, built over 3 generations, collapsed entirely. Properties were seized. Assets were frozen. The family name, once synonymous with power in Riverside, became synonymous with shame. But Maya didn't care about any of that. What she cared about was what happened next. 6 months after the trial, Bear called a meeting at Mama Lou's kitchen. Maya sat in her usual booth, now 8 years old, surrounded by the people who'd become her family. Dante, Jamal, the riders who'd shown up that first morning and never really left. "I've got news," Bear said, standing at the head of the table. "Good news." "What kind of news?" Keisha asked. "The kind that changes everything." Bear pulled out a folder. "Over the last 6 months, we've gotten calls from families all over the country. Kids being bullied, kids being stalked, kids being failed by the same systems that failed Maya. They heard her story, and they want help." "How many calls?" Maya asked. "Hundreds, from 32 states. And I realized something. What we did for Maya, the protection, the advocacy, the refusal to let a child suffer alone, we could do that for other kids too." He opened the folder. "So I've been working with some lawyers, some activists, some other clubs, and we've created something new." He held up a document. Guardian Angels Riders, a national network dedicated to protecting children failed by the system. We've already got chapters forming in 12 states. We've got funding commitments. We've got volunteers. Bear looked at Maya. "And we've got a co-founder." Maya's eyes went wide. "Me? You started this little lion. Your courage inspired everything that came after. It's only right that your name is on it." He handed her a certificate. Her name was written in gold letters, Maya Rose Johnson, co-founder, Guardian Angels Riders. Underneath in smaller letters, "Because every child deserves to be believed." Maya traced her name with her finger. "This is real. It's real. And Maya, this is just the beginning. We've already helped 23 children since the trial ended. 23 kids who were scared and alone and didn't know where to turn. 23 kids who found out they're not alone. Because of me. Because of you. Because you walked into this diner at 5 in the morning and asked for help. Because you refused to be silent when everyone told you to be quiet. Because you showed the world what one brave child can do." Maya looked at her mother. Keisha was crying, but smiling through the tears. "What do you think, baby?" Maya looked at the certificate, at Bear, at all the faces of the people who'd become her family. "I think I want to help more kids. I think I want to make sure nobody ever feels as scared and alone as I did. I think—" She paused, finding the words. "I think this is what I was supposed to do. This is why everything happened. So I could help others." Bear knelt down beside her. "Then that's what we'll do, together." The years that followed were filled with purpose. Guardian Angels Riders grew from 12 chapters to 47. They helped hundreds of children, kids being bullied, kids being stalked, kids trapped in situations where the adults who should have protected them had failed. Maya spoke at schools, at conferences, at congressional hearings about child safety. Her message was always the same: believe children protect children, and when systems fail, communities must rise. At 13, she gave the keynote speech at a national summit on child advocacy. 20,000 people watched a teenager talk about what she'd survived and what she'd built from the ashes. "I was 7 years old when I learned that being small doesn't mean being powerless," she told the crowd. "I was 7 when I learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite fear. And I was 7 when I learned the most important lesson of my life: you are never, ever alone. Even when it feels like the whole world has abandoned you, there's always someone who will believe you. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to find them." At 18, Maya graduated high school with honors. She'd been accepted to 3 universities. She chose the one with the best social work program. "I want to be the person I needed when I was 7, she explained to a reporter who asked about her plans. "I want to be the adult who believes children, the adult who fights for them, the adult who never ever looks away." Bear was there at her graduation, sitting in the front row with Keisha and the core group of writers who'd never stopped showing up. He was older now, gray had completely overtaken his beard, and he walked with a slight limp from years of riding. But his eyes were still sharp, and his presence still commanded respect. After the ceremony, Maya found him standing by his motorcycle. "You came on the bike," she said, grinning. "Always, you know that." "Bear, I want to tell you something." "What's that little lion?" Maya took a breath. She'd been thinking about this for years, waiting for the right moment. "You saved my life, not just by protecting me from Derek Whitfield, but by showing me that asking for help isn't weakness, that strangers can become family, that good people exist even when the world makes you doubt it." Bear's eyes grew wet. "Maya, let me finish. I know about your daughter. I know you've spent 30 years carrying that pain, and I know you've helped so many kids because of her, because you couldn't save her, but you could save others." "She would have loved you," Bear said quietly. "Angela, she would have loved you so much. I wish I could have met her." "Me too." Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. It was a patch, hand-stitched, just like the one Bear had given her years ago, but this one had new words: Angel's Legacy. "I had this made for you," Maya said. "Because what you built, Guardian Angels Riders, that's her legacy. Every child we help, every family we protect, every time we show up when nobody else will. That's Angela. That's her spirit living on through the work we do." Bear took the patch with trembling hands. He stared at it for a long moment, tears streaming down his weathered face. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just keep showing up. Keep believing kids when nobody else will. Keep being Papa Bear." He pulled her into a hug, held her like he'd held her that first morning in Mama Lou's kitchen, when she was just a terrified 7-year-old asking strangers for help. "I'm so proud of you, Maya. So damn proud." "I'm proud of us. All of us." Mjog. They stood there for a long moment, surrounded by the people who'd become family, celebrating how far they'd come. Keisha joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them. "My 2 favorite people in the world," she said. "Mommy, I couldn't have done any of this without you. Baby, all I did was believe you. That's everything, don't you get it? That's everything. You believed me when the whole world said I was lying. That's why I had the strength to keep fighting." Keisha kissed her daughter's forehead. "And you believed in yourself. That's what made the difference." That night, there was a celebration at Mama Lou's kitchen. 3 generations of riders filled the restaurant. Families who'd been helped by Guardian Angels riders shared their stories. Children who'd found safety and hope because of what Maya started ran through the room laughing, playing, being kids. Maya sat in her usual booth, the same booth where she'd told her story for the first time 11 years ago. She watched the chaos and the joy and the love, and she felt something she'd spent years learning to trust. Peace, not the absence of problems. There were always problems, always more children who needed help, always more systems that needed fixing, always more work to do. but peace in knowing that she wasn't alone, that she'd never been alone, that even in her darkest moment, when she was 7 years old and terrified and nobody would believe her, she'd found the courage to ask for help. And help had answered. Mama Lou herself, now in her 80s, but still running her kitchen with an iron fist, brought Maya a slice of sweet potato pie. "First peace," Mama Lou said, "before anyone else gets any." "Thank you, Mama Lou. Thank you, baby girl. You brought life back to this place, brought purpose to these old bones." She patted Maya's cheek. "Your grandmother would be proud. Your mama's proud. Hell, the whole world's proud." "I'm just doing what I was supposed to do." And that's what makes it special. Not everyone figures out what they're supposed to do. You did. At 7 years old, you figured it out. Maya took a bite of the pie. It was perfect, just like always. "Mama Lou." "Yes, baby." "Do you think things will ever really change? Like systemically, will children ever be truly safe?" Mama Lou sat down across from her, something she almost never did during service. "Maya, when I opened this restaurant 53 years ago, black folks couldn't eat at most places in this town, couldn't vote in some counties, couldn't look a white man in the eye without risking their lives. And people asked me then if things would ever change. What did you tell them? I told them that change happens one person at a time, one act of courage at a time, one child standing up and saying no more at a time." She reached across and took Maya's hand. "You asked if children will ever be truly safe. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not everywhere. But because of you, they're safer today than they were yesterday. And tomorrow, because of the work you keep doing, they'll be safer still. That's how change happens. Not all at once, but steady, constant, unstoppable." Maya squeezed her hand. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being here, that first morning when I walked in. You could have turned me away." "Turn away a child who needed help." Mama Lou laughed. "Baby, that's not who we are. That's never been who we are." At midnight, Bear stood up and called for quiet. The room fell silent. 11 years ago, a 7-year-old girl walked into this restaurant before dawn, terrified but determined, and asked a group of strangers for help. That girl changed my life. She changed all our lives. She showed us what courage looks like, what faith looks like, what justice looks like when ordinary people refuse to accept injustice. He raised his glass. "To Maya Johnson, the little lion who roared so loud the whole world had to listen." "To Maya," the room echoed. Maya stood overwhelmed by emotion. "I'm not the hero of this story," she said. "We all are. Every person who showed up, every person who believed, every person who refused to look away. The system failed me, but you didn't. And because of that, we've built something the system can never tear down. A family, a movement, a promise that no child will ever have to face what I faced alone." She looked at Bear, at her mother, at Dante and Jamal and Mama Lou and all the faces she'd grown to love. "This isn't the end of our story. It's just the beginning. There are more children who need us, more systems that need changing, more fights that need fighting, and I know with every fiber of my being that we'll face them together." She raised her own glass. "To the guardian angels, to the brotherhood, to every person who ever believed a child when nobody else would. And to my Papa Bear, who taught me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's the bravest thing a person can do. To family!" The room roared back. The celebration continued until nearly dawn. Maya stepped outside for air, finding herself alone on the same sidewalk where she'd stood 11 years ago, working up the courage to open the door. So much had changed since then. She'd grown from a terrified child into a confident young woman. The predator who'd haunted her nightmares was rotting in prison. The systems that had failed her were being rebuilt one piece at a time. And the movement she'd accidentally started had helped hundreds of children find safety and hope. But some things hadn't changed. She was still Maya Rose Johnson. She still wore purple ribbons in her braids on special occasions. And she still believed with every part of her soul that every child deserves to be heard, believed, and protected. The door opened behind her. Bear stepped out, his leather jacket creaking, his boots heavy on the concrete. "Thinking deep thoughts, little lion?" "Just remembering how scared I was that morning, how sure I was that nobody would help me. And now..." Maya looked at the street where hundreds of motorcycles had lined up to escort her to school, at the restaurant where she'd found her family, at the sky lightening with the first hints of dawn. "Now I know better. Now I know that there's always someone who will believe you. Sometimes they're strangers. Sometimes they look scary. Sometimes they ride motorcycles and wear leather vests. But they're there. You just have to be brave enough to ask." Bear put his arm around her shoulders. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think Angela sent you to me. I think she looked down from wherever she is and said, 'Daddy needs a purpose. Send him the bravest little girl in the world.'" Maya leaned into him. Maybe she did. And maybe she's watching right now, proud as hell of everything we've built. I hope so. They stood together as the sun rose over Riverside, Georgia, the town that had tried to silence a little girl and failed. The town that had learned the hard way that courage comes in all sizes. The town that would never forget the morning when 500 motorcycles came roaring down Main Street because a 7-year-old asked for help. "Ready to go back inside?" Bear asked. Maya shook her head. "Not yet. I want to remember this moment, this feeling." "What feeling?" She looked at him, this man who'd become her father in all the ways that mattered. This man who'd taught her that family isn't just blood. It's showing up. It's believing. It's refusing to look away when someone needs you. "The feeling of knowing exactly who I am and exactly what I'm meant to do." She smiled. "That's worth remembering." Bear smiled back. "Yeah, it is." Inside Mama Lou's kitchen, the celebration continued. Outside, the sun climbed higher, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. And somewhere across the country, a child who felt scared and alone was about to discover that help existed, that people cared, that one phone call to Guardian Angels riders could change everything, because Maya Johnson had walked into a diner at dawn and asked for help, because 5 bikers had believed her, because courage once sparked never truly dies. It spreads. It grows. It changes the world. Maya Rose Johnson had learned this truth at 7 years old, standing terrified before strangers asking to be believed. Now at 18, she lived it every single day. And she would keep living it, keep fighting, keep speaking, keep believing until every child in America knew what she knew. You are not alone. You are not invisible. You matter. And somewhere someone is waiting to believe you. All you have to do is ask.